Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is Kyle. The I Got Soul in Stereo podcast is back. I've got Tom with me. Tom, we've upgraded our studio, the I Got Soul studio, so our podcasts are going to sound a lot better, right, Tom?
Yeah, we invested all of our ad money into purchasing new equipment, so we're kind of broke right now, but we sound pretty good.
And that's what matters most, the listeners. Tom, a lot to talk about this week in R&B, but I gotta bring up something. I was on Facebook the other day. Actually, before we get into that, let's talk about Twitter for a minute. I think a week ago,
hold on,
just
Kyle.
Randomly one evening.
Hold on, Kyle.
Yep.
You forgot about Ed.
Oh, right. So through the process of upgrading all of our equipment, we had to let some of our staff member go. So, I'm just kidding.
He's actually,
Ed is, I think,
no, Ed's in Las Vegas right now at the Keith Sweat residency, so he couldn't make it.
Oh, okay, fair enough. But we'll have Ed for another episode. Ooh, I thought I was gonna tell everyone we fired him, but I guess Ed is still part of the team. But just wanted to talk about Twitter a little bit, Tom. This was happening around midnight, and everyone, for some reason, on Twitter just started talking about 90s R&B. You had Jagged Edge trending, you had Dru Hill trending, and it was like a flashback moment. And it got to thinking, Tom, like, people really miss that 90s R&B.
Yeah, they do. It was considered one of the golden eras of R&B, and people still miss it. Some people will only listen to 90s R&B, especially the subgenres too, like New Jack Swing. Europe is still on that New Jack Swing tip. DJ Soul Child. But yeah, it's at 90s R&B. It was one of the best times for music. I grew up in that era. I think you came a little later in that era. Your mom came in that era.
Yeah, I came up I came in a little later, but my mom was playing that stuff, so I kind of grew up in that era, I guess. But Tom, when it comes to 90s R&B, first of all, what is 90s R&B? Like, define that to the listeners who grew up listening to that. Like, what separates 90s R&B from 2000s R&B and 80s R&B? Like, what is it?
Well, besides the obvious answer of it came out between 1990 and 1999.
Oh, really? I didn't know that. Thank you.
It was just a certain quality to it. It had a certain edge came into it, and compared to 80s R&B, it definitely got edgier. A lot of it was about the vocals. Everyone was competing with each other vocally, and the quality. It just like hit people. People gravitated to it. People were doing some really unique things. I think some of the sounds in the 80s, just to compare, were more generic. So we got some like unique producers, and really they were competing with each other. So, and then of course the groups were competing with each other. And so it really brought the best in everyone. And I feel like, in my opinion, we really got, such good music during that time. Labels were behind it. It was crossing over to pop. You were hearing R&B music on pop radio. Of course, like Boys to Men, Mariah Carey started branching into R&B from pop, and it was just, I don't know. What's your what do you take from that era?
I got two words for you, Tom. Slow jams. Like, the art of slow jams I don't think that term even exists anymore, to be honest. Like, you have ballads, but I think slow jams has its own definition to it. And I can't really even explain the difference, but it's just like the 90s R&B, like, that's where the slow jams all happen. You think about Boys to Men, you think about 112, Jagged Edge, Dru Hill. Like, Tom, what are some of your favorite slow jams?
You're putting me on the spot just like that?
Just like that.
Time to pull up the iTunes. Of course, Boys to Men, when you think of them, they had a few of the biggest ones. But
yep.
I'm going to have to come back to you on this one. I can't off the top of my head Of course, my favorite slow jam probably of all time is John B's They Don't Know. Shout out to John B, our boy. Wow. Just because I'm a John B fan, but what do you got?
Dope. You know what? The slow jam that always whenever I think of slow jams, obviously you have the Boys to Men, the I'll Make Love to Yous and stuff like that. But the one that really stood out to me was 112's Cupid. That was one of my favorites.
Yeah. It like
and then
oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say on Twitter you had the obvious debate of 112 versus Drew Hill versus Jagged Edge.
I hate that debate.
And I think
I hate that.
We've had countless debates about that. Why do you hate that debate? Because let me tell you, Tom, if you Google that right now, 112 versus Jagged Edge versus Drew Hill, on numerous forums, whether it's Nike Talk, whether it's Prince Forum, you see some dude named the DJ Slam ask this exact question. And correct me if I'm wrong, but wasn't that you?
That was 2009, okay? That was like 8 years ago, man. Come on now.
Man.
First of all, you didn't even mention Next in this category. Next has to be in there too.
That's true.
They had the biggest crossover hits out of all of them, if you look it up.
Yeah, Too Close is the biggest one for sure.
But yeah, I just don't like the debate because why are we still debating that? I mean, why does it even really matter? Let's just enjoy all of them. Actually, personally, I was a bigger 112 fan, but then I came to appreciate Jagged Edge later on, and now I just like them both equally. So that's my opinion.
What happened to Drew Hill?
Well, Drew Hill... No, I like Drew Hill a lot, too. I thought we were talking about 112 versus Jagged Edge because the two Atlanta groups always get compared, but Drew Hill, in my opinion, were the best vocalists.
Yeah.
And, of course, like I said, we have to keep Next in that group, too. Those were like the four of the late 90s that were really making those big hits. It's like you had the late 90s R&B groups, and you had like the early 90s, like the Jodeci's and the Boys to Men. It's like, to me, that's like two separate, maybe throw Guy in there, too. Two separate categories.
Can't forget. Well, where would you put Blackstreet?
Ooh.
Because let me tell you, Blackstreet, their first two albums, like, man, I would be considered too young for the first two Blackstreet albums, but I went back and listened to it, and man, Teddy Riley, Dave Hollister, Chauncey, man, those two albums, classics.
Well, that's an interesting thing you brought up, because how come they don't really get mentioned always among the 112s and the Jagged Edge and the Drew Hills and the Next, even though they had multiple platinum albums, huge singles?
No Diggity is probably even bigger than Too Close, right?
I know it was the #1 single. I don't know offhand which was bigger.
Yeah.
I'm a huge fan of Take Me There, though, from the Rugrats soundtrack. Great song.
Shout-outs to Maya.
Yes.
Yep. Isn't that crazy, though, how in the 90s you would have R&B songs end up on kid soundtracks? Like, remember the Space Jam soundtrack?
Yeah.
Monica, All for One, R. Kelly.
It was just a different time. Don't forget about the female groups, too. We had huge female groups. SWV, TLC, In Vogue, Escape come to mind immediately.
Yeah.
Who do you got?
Man,
who do you think was bigger, TLC or SWV?
I mean, I think TLC reached another level.
Right.
They crossed over to pop, came to another level. But you know what? And I don't want to be hating, Tom, but I'm going to just put it out there. Like, stylistically, TLC is amazing, but vocally, like, how come they never got called out for their vocals? Because I've never really saw the appeal with them vocally. Or maybe they weren't labeled as vocalists.
Well, I feel like in R&B in that time, you had to come with the vocals. I think that they did just enough. I mean, their music was that good that you just couldn't deny them. So I wish Ed was here because he would be able to speak on this with more authority. But, regardless, they had huge pop hits, and they're still legends to this day. And
But Tom,
yeah, go ahead.
I don't know, because I feel like first of all, we love TLC.
Oh boy,
love all their music, but come on, like T-Balls and Chili is some because Tom, I watched a recent clip of them. a live performance, and they're out there lip singing. And then I found out from our readers on Twitter that they've been lip syncing since like the beginning. And it's just like, I understand they dance, but come on.
Yeah, that's a little disappointing. But at the end of the day, do you think that takes away from their legacy? I mean,
to me, it probably doesn't, just because they were able to put out so much great music during their time. But, well, first of all, what hurts their legacy now is, where the hell is the new album?
Well, that's a huge problem. They took everyone's money and donations. They haven't even been given a status update on it, if I remember correctly. So it's almost like that's bad. That's really bad.
Well, we did get a press release recently. They're actually going on tour soon. They're going on a 90s R&B, I guess 90s R&B tour. It's them. I believe Montel Jordan is on that bill. Who else is there? Blackstreet and Cisco. Not Drew Hill, but
yeah,
Cisco.
that's annoying. I hate when they do that. We don't want Jazz and Nokia. We just want Cisco.
Yep. I don't know the dates for this yet. Actually, it's already been going on. The tour name is the I Love 90s tour. And I think they switch up the acts every so often. So right now I think you have people like Salt and Peppa and All For One hitting the road, and then I think they're going to switch it up for another lineup, and TLC is going to be part of that one. So that should be fun for all the throwback music lovers who just want to have fun and get drowned in the nostalgia.
Well, I know you're going.
Let me tell you, I don't know if I ever told you guys this story, but Tom and I were in New York. I think it was last August.
Oh boy!
And Ja Rule and Ashanti were performing at, what was it, the PlayStation Theater?
Yep.
Man, let me tell you guys, nostalgia is deadly. Like, theoretically, why would you pay so much money to listen to songs that came out 10, 20 years ago? But when you're caught in the moment, man,
yeah,
you just gotta spend that money.
Yeah, but that's the thing though, because even though a lot of 90s artists don't sell records anymore, they still sell out their shows across the world based off their previous hits. People still pay money to see them live and hear those songs, so they could do that forever. I mean, they don't have to release. That's why I keep saying I don't think anyone's really going to be in a rush to release an album anytime soon, because they could just tour pretty much as they want and make good money. You know, if you're not going to sell albums.
And I would even argue that a song like Pony by Genuine, it was huge back then, but it's like even bigger now. It's crazy.
People love it. People love that song.
It's like white America now. It's been taken by white America.
Oh boy. Let me ask you this though. You know, you grew up in the 2000s of R&B. So what elements do you think spilled over from the 90s into the 2000s, if any?
I think especially the early part of the 2000s, I mean, the production was updated. It had a lot more hip-hop influence on it. I think when you saw what the Neptunes and Timbaland and all these great producers were doing, they kind of enhanced the sound. I think vocally it wasn't as high of a priority. I mean, it was still pretty high. Like, when people like Mario came out, and even Chris Brown to an extent, like, people still cared about them vocally. You couldn't just go and, you know, not be able to sing. But I think they started focusing on the dancing as well and just the overall performance. So I don't think really a lot changed from the 90s to the 2000s. I think around 2006, 2007 is where we started to see a drastic turn of events, when you had, you know, your boy Akon and your boy T-Pain.
Oh, come on, man. Jeez.
Come on, you love Akon.
Yes.
Isn't that Gwen Stefani and Akon song like a top 10 song for you?
I wouldn't say a top 10 song, but I do like it. It's like a guilty pleasure, though.
A sweet escape.
That's like a guilty pleasure.
Yep. Yeah, but I think for the most part, it wasn't until then that R&B really changed significantly. Because you think of a song like "Let Me Love You" by Mario, came out in 2004, 2005. I don't know if it necessarily fits into a 90s playlist, but like you could still hear elements of it. But it's just crazy now when you listen to a lot of urban acts on, you know, radio that are quoted as R&B, and their music now has no linkage or no lineage to 2000 or 90s R&B.
Well, it's actually interesting because I feel like artists are still being influenced by the 90s. Like, I just heard a rapper or some singer say, like, Donnell Jones, Where I Want to Be, influenced his whole career or something. But then when you listen to the music, it sounds nothing like that era. It's kind of weird. Like, they still...
It's funny, actually.
Will listen to it? Go ahead.
No, like, I was talking to a friend of mine who was trying to put me on to Tory Lanez. Shoutouts to Tory Lanez, I guess. He's from Canada, so I got to give him some love. But, you know, my friend was telling me, like, man, you got to listen to this new Tory Lanez mixtape. It's super R&B, 90s R&B. And I'm like, all right, like, it's Tory Lanez, so I'm not going to really expect much vocally. But if you're going to tell me it's 90s influence, I'm going to go listen to it. And every song on that mixtape, Tom, I assume you haven't had a chance to listen to it yet. Every song on that mixtape samples a R&B song from, you know, and obviously, like, puts 808s on it and trap drums and all that stuff. And I guess that's what's considered 90s influence now, but it doesn't even sound anything like 90s R&B, aside from the sample.
Yeah, you know, it's on my to-do list. I just really haven't gotten around to it yet, so hopefully soon.
Excellent.
You know, that reminds me, you know, sorry, this is a bit of a tangent, but, you know, Eric Bellinger, who is a friend of ours, we supported in the past on the site, you know, he's kind of in that trap R&B lane, but he released an acoustic version of his latest album, and I was like, all right, it's probably going to be some traditional R&B sounding stuff, just him and a guitar, but it was still like rap singing and turn up music acoustically. I couldn't believe it.
Wow.
And that ends that tangent.
But Eric Bellinger is actually working with Neo right now on Neo's new album.
Yeah.
So
I'm a little nervous.
Maybe that's where the traditional art. I'm a little nervous too, but I mean, first of all, we love Eric Bellinger as the person Eric Bellinger, because he works super hard. Like, you and I have this conversation all the time. He started off as a writer, and he's actually created a brand for himself, and people actually recognize his name now. So, and we see him constantly put out music. So shout out to Eric Bellinger, but we really hope he can deliver on this Neo album. I mean, I don't think Neo necessarily needs him,
right?
But I mean, if he's working with him, we gotta support, right?
Absolutely, and we will. All right, let's get back. Let's get back on track.
Sorry about that. But I want to talk about something else. I was on Facebook, and I saw everyone. I think Ed was the first one to post it, Tom. It was a post where you're supposed to name 10 albums, that impacted your teenage life.
Right.
So for Ed, it was from like 1963 to 1972.
Ouch.
I'm just kidding.
Ouch. I didn't see Ed's, in fact. I wonder what Ed would have on there.
Well, we can take a look at that. Let me see if I can find it. But before we get into Ed's list, I want to hear your list, Tom. During your teenage years, I assume you were in late 90s? Is that correct?
I was actually a late bloomer in R&B. I mean, I didn't start listening to it until the late 90s. So for me,
sure,
like, it's a little different.
I mean, you can throw some hip hop stuff if you want, because I know you're a big hip hop fanatic as well.
Like Nas's Illmatic album is definitely in there. I still play it all the way through to this date. Remember when we saw him at Essence Festival performing the whole album? I was out there watching some of it as a fan. Like, that was fun.
I didn't know what was going on the entire set.
And let me think.
I gotta get on my Nas.
Man, that's my number one right there. Music Soul Child's debut, I think that might have been 2000. I can't remember if it was 99 or 2000. But that one had a big impact. I mean, we're saying my teenage years, not just the 90s. So that's one of them. Glenn Lewis's World Outside My Window album, believe it or not. I don't know why.
That's a sad album.
It is, but I think just because he reminded me so much of Stevie Wonder with the vocals and the vibe of it, I liked it a lot.
You knew who Stevie Wonder was during your teenage years?
Kind of. I didn't grow to appreciate Stevie Wonder until later, though. But then we got to also throw in there John B's Cool Relax album, his sophomore album, Joe's My Name Is Joe album. Believe it or not, Avant's debut album, My Thoughts, got heavy rotation from me. That came out around 99.
Oh, Getaway? Getaway was a sad song.
How many is that? I'm trying to see here.
6.
I used to actually listen to Jay-Z a lot and Mobb Deep, but that's more hip-hop side.
Yep. Donnell Jones, is that one?
Oh, right. Donnell Jones, Where I Want to Be. Jaheim's debut album. I think it's called Ghetto Love. And Genuine's 100% Genuine album. I think we're going to have a crossover on that one.
Yep, for sure.
Of course.
What about Usher? Was it 8701 for you?
Yep. 112's Room 112 album, definitely. And Jagged Edge's J.E. Heartbreak. I think that'll round it out.
Okay.
The top 10.
Cool. Let's go with Ed's list first because I just found it. So he had Missy Elliott's Super Duper Fly, Biggie, Ready to Die, Keith Sweat, Self-Titled, Nas, Illmatic, The Wu-Tang, 36 Chambers, Jay-Z, Reasonable Doubt, Erykah Badu, Baduism, Kirk Franklin, and The Family. Wow. Drew Hill, Self-Titled, and Kelly Price, Soul of a Woman. We know Ed loves him some Kelly Price.
Yes, he does. Very churchy, right?
Yes. Yeah. Very, very, very churchy. I'm surprised he didn't have 112 on that list.
And anyone who's listening to this podcast, if you're thinking about your own list, you got to think about it quick. I think the stipulation was you had to do it on the spot. You couldn't take time to think about it. So,
absolutely.
What's yours now?
Let me give you my list. So, and this was really quick on the spot. So I had Aaliyah's self-titled album, or the Red Album, as some people like to call it. I had the Brandy Aphrodisiac album. I remember when I first listened to that, I was just... Because I had already known about Timbaland's production, but I think that album really... That took it to another level. Genuine's 100%. Mario, surprise, surprise, his Go album. The thing about that album, though, Tom, is, I remember that album kept getting pushed back. And there was one song on that album that I really, really wanted. Because I had heard a snippet of it on his MySpace at the time. It was the song Kryptonite, featuring Rich Boy. I think Ed likes him.
Jeez.
And the album kept getting pushed back, and I really wanted that song. And then, I don't remember where, but I think I found it on a Japanese music CD website where you could buy CDs.
Wow.
And I played it on there, and this was before the album came out. This was when it didn't even have a release date, and it was already on this Japanese website. So I downloaded it from there.
Wow.
Yeah. NERD, In Search Of. I think that might have been on your list too, Tom.
If we expanded the 20s, I'd have that in there.
For sure. You know what's crazy, though? That's on my list, but as I was telling Ed, Pharrell's debut was actually on my list as well.
Wow.
I remember when I was going to school for about a month straight, I was listening to that Pharrell album nonstop. What was it? In My Mind?
Yeah.
As I look back on it, I think only half of the album is good. But
oh, man.
It's okay.
It's funny that happens. As you get older, you change your opinion on stuff. It happens.
You're like, I like this song? No. Neo's debut is on my list as well, In My Own Words. Usher, 8701. I would say I probably listened more to Confessions when it came out, but 8701, it was probably Usher is probably what got me into R&B full time. I just remember when he came out with "You Remind Me." I don't know if you remember the music video, but it always stood out to me, that one scene where he like gets into a Ferrari and it's the doors are like a Lamborghini door.
Yeah. I remember him.
And I'm just like,
that's the video where he's like dancing through the elevator in the mall, right?
Yeah, exactly.
I remember that video.
Yeah, and that and then "You Got It Bad" came out, and then "You Don't Have to Call," and that solidified me as an R&B fan. And then the last one would have been "Play a Cheers to You," which I actually discovered a couple years after it came out. And the reason for that is you had the Aaliyah album, you had the Genuine album, and people kept talking about this Static dude, and I'm like, who is Static? So found out he was part of "Play a Cheers to You," and yeah, that rounds up my list.
Did I ever tell you how I found that album?
How?
I didn't even know about it. I knew about "Cheers to You" and "Don't Stop the Music," but I never even really was interested in listening to it until Aaliyah had passed away, and I was just searching Aaliyah songs that I had missed, and I found "One Man Woman," featuring Aaliyah, and I was like, wow, this is good. So I listened to the whole album after that. It was like 2001.
Wow.
So that's how that happened. I would have maybe never heard it otherwise. So I'm glad I did, though. Obviously, I have an interesting question for you, though. I'm going to flip it on you real quick. Of the albums you just mentioned in your top 10, which ones would you realistically say are a classic?
Oh man. The Aaliyah album, I'm gonna just say it's a classic.
Oh man,
is that fair?
The Red album?
It's not fair.
No.
That's her best album. I know people say "One in a Million" is.
I'm not hating on it.
No,
I'm not hating on the album.
No,
I
think it's a classic.
Remember, I would say it could be close. I'm not. To me, classic is maybe like 1 or 2 albums per year.
Okay. I guess it depends on who you ask. I think you got to remember, I think we had this conversation before. When it first came out, not a lot of people liked it, and it didn't really sell that well.
Yeah, but I've been told I was wrong for saying that. I wasn't allowed to say that.
Okay, we'll just pretend it never happened. So you know what, you're right. Like, I think some of it is just the fan in me that's calling it a classic, but I'm gonna give it a classic stamp on it.
All right, go ahead.
I want to hear Ed's opinion on it. So what else did I? Oh, you know what? I forgot to mention my rap albums too. So we had Kanye West's Late Registration.
Oh.
The College Dropout I was aware of, and I listened to it, and it's a great album. But the Late Registration is the one that I remember, like, really liking, and I remember when it came out and everything. So that's why it's on there. And then you have the Games documentary.
Oh man.
I was never a huge G-Unit fan, but that album I really liked. So
all right.
So there you go. So I'm gonna give the stamp to the Aaliyah album. What else do we have? Brandy's Aphrodisiac. That's a personal favorite. I don't think it's a classic. I don't think anyone would call it a classic, but it's a great album.
Right.
Genuine's 100%. I don't know if I can call that a classic.
It's probably close.
It is a great album.
I'd say it's close.
It's pretty darn close. Would you say it's closer than his debut?
Oh, that's a tough one. I actually think they're side by side. Like if classic is a 5, I'll put them both at 4.5.
I would say even like a 4.9.
Well,
it's close.
The thing is, though, I feel like on 100%, there was just a few too many tracks. At least on his debut, it was like concise, and almost every song is at least good. Like, to me,
but on the debut,
what?
Well, the thing about the debut, before I cut you, sorry about cutting you off, but I was just gonna say the problem with Genuine's debut album is I think at least 75% of the album had the pony burping sound on it. Think about it.
I mean, I guess, but
yeah,
they were trying something new, and it worked. But
I think Timbaland overdid that one, but
got a little carried away. That's all right.
Yep. Mario's Go album. Go rhymes with no, so I'm going to say no, it's not a classic.
Right.
NERD's In Search Of. That's a classic, right? That's a cult classic.
That's a cult classic. I'm not going to say that's a... There's some weird stuff on there. Didn't I tell you I think Pharrell was definitely high at the time through the whole album recording?
Yep.
I think if you listen to what he's talking about, it's just like, okay, what's going on?
Still better than what Pharrell talks about nowadays. So, what else do we have here? Neo's In My Own Words album. Again, I don't know if I would call it a classic.
I would, because if you consider, consider the era it came out in. Like if you compare it to all its peers, I'd say yes. Ed would say definitely not.
Yeah. You know what? Yeah, I'm leaning towards a classic on this one. It had a bunch of big singles. Overall, it was a great album. Still an album that I listen to, actually.
Me too, actually.
So there
you go.
I'll give that one to Neo. Still baffles me that they put out the Petey Crack song as the lead single. That never made sense to me.
Right.
But anywho, Play a Cheers to You. Probably a cult classic more than a classic.
Right.
Shout out to Black though, from the group Digital Black. As I was listing these albums, he actually commented on my Facebook, and he said it was an honor that the Playa album was on my list. Like I'm actually somebody that matters. But
come on,
shout
man!
out to Digital Black.
Do you realize you're one of the few voices left in R&B? Oh, seriously, who else even really represents for R&B these days? Besides some random trending Twitter once every 5 years, you know, it's the way it is.
Yep, fair enough. And then the last album on that list was what, 8701?
Yeah, that is.
I'll say that's a classic.
That's a classic.
So
can I do mine real quick?
There you go. What about your? Yeah, what's yours? So we have the Avant debut.
The Avant debut is not a classic, but I will say it's his best album by far. Not to say the rest of it is bad, but it's close though. I'd say I still listen to that one to this day. 112 Room 112.
You think that's his best one? Hold on, you think Avant's debut is his best?
Definitely. You're gonna say that. You're gonna say director, right?
Yep.
Because of Underdogs?
I mean, that was part of it, yes.
Come on, man.
I think it's a more cohesive album, personally.
Well, you had to be there when it came out.
It had
like, I'm just remembering when it came out, and, like, it just didn't sound like the depth of the album, and, you know, that's how I'm looking at it. I like Director a lot, too. It's probably my second favorite of his, but... My thoughts. Okay. So, Room 112. I'm gonna say yes.
Yeah.
J.E. Heartbreak. I'm gonna say yes.
Yep.
100% Genuine. We talked about Jaheim's Ghetto Love. I'm gonna say no. My Name Is Joe album. I'm gonna say yes.
No.
I'm gonna say yes.
No, oh man, please elaborate. I want to hear this.
Well, and
first of all, I love Joe, but
it's another one that really you got to consider it for its time. Like that was a huge album of its time, and listening through all the songs, there's not many I don't like on this album. I mean, Peep Show and Get Crunk Tonight, really, but for the most part. I kind of like every song, so I'll say it's close, all right?
I don't know. I would even put his debut on top of that one. Or not his debut, I'm sorry. All That I Am, the second one.
All That I Am is good, too, but... Actually, I like the singles better on All That I Am than My Name Is Joe, but...
Exactly.
That's another...
But I don't even know if that one is a classic, but...
This is another debate for another time. We love Joe, though.
Okay.
John B., Cool Relax... Yes.
Yeah, that's a classic.
You've actually listened to it?
I have, actually.
Wow, impressive.
Yep.
Damn, I didn't even include Mary J. Blige. You made me think about this too quickly, man.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I should have put every Mary J. Blige album in there.
In the 90s?
Yep. All for first four. All classics. I forgot what else I had, but close enough.
Donnell Jones?
Donnell Jones, yes. Or close. It's tough. How come it feels like, maybe it's just our tastes have evolved, but why does it feel like there's no more classic albums coming out?
No, there aren't. It's crazy.
But would you say that artists aren't capable of releasing a classic once they've passed their debut or their second album?
Yeah, as I'm thinking about it, it seems like, and I don't know if it's you know, them falling off per se or them losing the ability to, but I think hype and marketing also goes into it as well. Like Jasmine Sullivan's last album was a great album, but it's like everyone's forgotten about that album already.
I mean,
it's just the state of the.
What'd you say was her best album?
Ooh, that's a tough one. Yeah, her debut is probably the best one.
Yeah,
but the latest one was pretty good too.
You know who released a great album and it was their fourth album?
Who?
Chrisette Michele.
We're gonna talk about Chrisette Michele now.
No, but actually she did the better album.
No, yeah, for sure.
That was
yeah, like, because I remember her debut album came out and it was like a jazz album, so I didn't really have any interest in that.
Ouch.
The Epiphany album, well, I'm just being honest. No shade. I remember when the Epiphany album came out, and that was actually, I really liked that album. Neo had a big hand in helping with that one, and I was a big Neo fan at the time, so that album I really liked. The one after that, it was the one with I'm a Star on it.
Let Freedom Reign.
What's the name of that album? Yeah, that one I didn't really like, but you're right, Better, which came out on Motown, right?
Yep.
That was a great album.
Yeah.
Great album.
Yeah. So we're just foreshadowing because Chrisette Michele will come up later in this discussion, but
let's just get into it now for a minute.
All right.
But before, so as everyone I'm sure knows already, and they probably saw it on TV, Chrisette Michele was part of President Trump's inauguration ceremony.
Yep.
Tom, did you get a chance to watch everything?
I didn't watch it live, but I found the video online and featured it on the site. When I posted it on the site, and I said you can watch the performance, a lot of people on Twitter just responded and said no thanks. I'm just saying. Anyway, it was interesting actually. It was a gospel song. I don't know if she did a full set or what. I can't really find the news because it was a private event, but it wasn't actually at his inauguration. It was like one of the after parties that he has attended. So It was a little different, but and they only have one song online. It was her and a gospel singer and a choir, and it was a gospel song. That's all I saw. But
real talk, Tom, do you think Donald Trump knows any Chrisette Michele songs?
Well, I thought of that actually, and I don't even know if he knows who that is. I don't think he does, honestly. Do you?
Well, we read online that no, probably not, but we read online that she got paid. Are you ready for this, Tom?
Ready.
$750,000 for her performance.
She is getting married. You know, that could go a long way towards the marriage and the wedding. Those are expensive, man. You saw mine.
Yep, you can speak from experience.
You know that. You saw mine.
Yeah.
But in all seriousness, we tweeted that we were hoping she would donate some of that to one of the causes that are happening right now with all these protests. So I think that would be great if she did issue a open letter prior to the performance stating her side of the story.
Yeah, I mean, I think we were talking to Ed about this, and he obviously isn't happy with what has transpired. I think the message from the outside looking in, it looks like she just did everything for the money. But I don't really want to get into that too much because we're here to talk about the music. But all I'm saying is, it would be great if, she did the right thing and donated some of that money. Maybe not all of it, but some of it to charity. YouKnowIGotSoul can definitely use some of that money.
Oh, man.
And then for the rest of it, I'm not gonna hate on her if she's gonna use it for her career, because let me tell you, R&B is struggling, and any extra cash that you can get, should probably get it.
She's an independent artist now. You know, her last album, Milestone, was her first independent album. She's got her own label. So yeah, definitely. I hope she uses that towards the next album or whatever. I mean, she just did the Love Jones stage play tour, so that was big for her. We're still going to support, though. That's the bottom line. We're still going to support the music. We might not support her decision.
Yeah.
We don't have any comment on her decision to perform. We don't get into politics, but we will still support the music.
You know what's crazy though, Tom? $750,000. Obviously, in today's music industry, the state of the music industry today, that goes a long way as an independent artist. So I don't hate on Chrisette for making a business decision, but as I was thinking about that amount of money, it made me realize there's a lyric by Timbaland that says he gets $500,000 for a beat, $500,000 for a beat. So Chrisette Michele could technically get a primetime Timbo beat.
Wow. Maybe he'll pick one out of the vault for her. Or maybe he's saving those all for...
Isn't that crazy?
Is he saving those all for Tink's album or what?
Who knows? But it's even amazing to fathom that a beat back in the day could cost $500,000.
Yeah. And it's actually interesting that most of those producers that were making a lot of money in the 2000s are now struggling to get placements because, artists don't have budgets like that anymore to afford them, especially R&B.
Yeah.
So it's kind of unfortunate, actually, especially with streaming. This is another tangent,
Yep.
but people don't even realize when it comes to streaming, artists get a cut, but really producers are the one and writers are the ones suffering because, how are you going to... What are they profiting off of? If you just throw something on a mixtape or just for streaming for free, it's tough.
Exactly. But you know what's crazy? I was reading on Google that Nas actually paid $2 million for a Neptune beat.
Oh, man. Don't tell me.
So that got me thinking.
Don't tell me it's that Flyest
I
Angel
was-
song.
I think it's that one, but I don't know if it is.
Oh, man.
What other Nas Neptune songs are there?
I think that's...
Yeah, I mean, there's the one that he did with Khalees.
Well, that wasn't his song, though, was that?
No, I don't think
Popular Thug was a Khalees song.
so. Yeah. So it might be that Flyest Angel song.
That wasn't even a single, though, was it?
No, it was on the Charlie's Angel soundtrack, I think.
Jeez.
$2 million. I don't know. We gotta confirm that. We'll get Pharrell or Chad up here one day and we'll ask them.
Or probably, more likely, Shay.
Yeah. Or Kenna.
Oh, man.
Oh man.
Well,
Anywho, Tom, I wanted to quickly talk about. Do you have anything else before we hop into this food discussion?
no. Let's hop into it. What do we got?
Oh man, food discussion. It's been a while since one of those.
Well, actually, I heard that. I think it was McDonald's. They're changing the Big Mac recipe or something. You hear about that?
I think they're throwing a bacon on it, I believe.
Why do we always end up talking about fast food? We don't have any class at all on this podcast.
No, we don't.
Jeez, that's pretty bad.
Well, Tom, I'll tell you what we're going to talk about, because I actually just looked this up yesterday. Of all the fast food joints that you've gone to, which would you rank as the best place to get chicken nuggets or chicken tenders or chicken fingers?
Man, I was just in the airport.
Because
Here, let me tell you, I was just in the airport, and since I don't eat red meat, I really had very few options of what I could eat before I got onto a plane.
Yep.
And I ended up getting Burger King chicken nuggets. And let me tell you, they weren't that good.
Ouch.
They didn't even give me any dipping sauce. So
Well, that's a problem.
they didn't offer any. I didn't even know if they had any. So it was pretty bad. I actually like.
Okay.
I like McDonald's, actually. Believe it or not, chicken nuggets with the sweet and sour sauce.
Those are the classic ones.
Yeah.
Yep. Well, I have a list pulled up right now of the top 9, or the 9 nuggets ranked from worst to best. Are you ready?
Yep.
So number 9, do you guys have White Castle over there?
Yeah, although I've never eaten there in my life.
All right, then we're going to... So White Castle's chicken pretzel donut-shaped rings.
What the hell is
All right, number
that?
9.
Wow.
Let me say that again. White Castle's chicken pretzel donut-shaped rings.
That sounds... No comment.
No, we're going to move on.
We do need
so at number 8...
We need to get a food sponsor for our studios. I'm getting hungry.
Well, I'll take any sponsor at this point. We need to get that bread. So, at number 8, we have... Oh, here we go. Burger King's Classic Nuggets.
That's about right. So number 8 is the second lowest?
Yeah.
All right. Sorry, Burger King.
Number 7... Oh, I'm actually surprised it's this low on the list. KFC's Popcorn Nuggets.
I think I've tried those once.
Or popcorn chicken.
I've had that once.
They're pretty good.
It was okay.
It's alright. Number 6, we have White Castle's Chicken Donut Rings. I don't know what the difference between this and the top one is. Actually, you know what? This one isn't a pretzel.
They made the list twice. That's how good they are. Wait.
Yep.
No, hold on. They made the list twice, and they couldn't even make it to the top 5 with either one. That's pretty bad.
There might be one more. I don't know. Number 5. I think you can appreciate this one. You've talked about this before. The Burger King chicken fries.
Oh man, I had heartburn immediately after eating those. It wasn't good. It was pretty.
Was it good?
I needed to get Tums right after eating those. I mean, they taste good going down, but then it's like, oh man, indigestion, heartburn.
Man.
Moving on,
we have number 4, Popeyes chicken nuggets.
I've never had.
Popeyes is solid for... I thought you had chicken strips from
Yeah,
Popeyes
we had Popeyes, remember?
We were in New Orleans.
But I never had the nuggets, though.
Yep.
That was a bad experience.
Funny story
remember
about
that?
Popeyes.
That was a bad experience.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember that because I was lining up and they asked me, I think, if I wanted rice or corn or something like that. And people in New Orleans have like a really thick accent, so and they talk really fast, so I didn't know what was going on.
No, I think they were expecting you to know what you were supposed to do to order. And you were like,
oh, right.
And you were like, I have no idea what's going on. And then it seemed like they got pissed because you were slowing things down.
Yeah. So next time we go to New Orleans, we need a host or someone to help us out.
Yep.
All right. So number 3, Chick-fil-A nuggets.
I had Chick-fil-A once about 15 years ago.
And?
I don't remember anything about it.
All right. Well, we're down to the last 2. Number 2, the McDonald's Chicken McNuggets.
Uh-oh. Whatever's number 1 on this
so
list,
that's not number 1.
I'm going to run out right now and get some after this podcast ends.
Well, Tom, if you're going to go get some nuggets, you might as well grab a Frosty as well. It's the Wendy's Chicken Nuggets.
Oh, man. Wendy's. I never even had those. Interesting.
It might be time. Yep.
Have you had them?
So we're on the I haven't had those either. I think we only have like one Wendy's left in Vancouver. So.
Damn. Tough times.
Yep.
Do you know on the other podcast where you were talking about remember you asked about toast sandwich?
Yep.
So I actually asked people in real life if they ever had a toast sandwich, and no one knew what I was talking about. Just so you know.
Damn. I might go make myself one right now, actually. Hold up, you just came back from Disney World, right?
Yeah, I found Goofy. He's R&B, isn't he?
Did you eat one of them turkey legs?
I did not, but I did see them. The people look like a bunch of savages walking around eating those things. It's kind of gross to watch people try to eat that.
Yeah?
You don't even have a napkin. You just kind of just bite into it. It gets all over your face, the sauce. And you just kind of walk around with it.
And it's greasy and everything?
Yeah. It's not pretty. It's fried, so it's greasy.
Oh, man.
But they sell a lot of them.
Hey, but hey, carnival food is great. What do you have? The cinnamon donuts?
Carnival
mini
food?
donuts?
Oh, man.
Yeah, man.
Carnival food.
You have the mini donuts. You have, what is it, cotton candy, hot dogs, corn dog. I'm getting hungry already. We got to get a sponsor here.
Someone when I was asking about the toast sandwich asked me if I like Taco Bell. And if you listen to previous podcasts, you know how we feel about Taco Bell.
It's good for cleaning your stomach, but it's not good for eating.
I mean, it tastes good going down. But
yeah, but
it doesn't last long.
It like 30 seconds later, you're done.
Pretty much.
Man. That seems to be it for this episode of the podcast, Tom. What do we have going on You Know I Got Soul right now? It's been kind of a slow year for us.
It's been a slow year for R&B so far. So we've been posting a lot of rare gems on the site. I've been digging these up. A lot of songs we missed from the 90s, B-sides from singles, and rare remixes. So check those out on the site. For the most part, we should be... Belle Biv DeVoe is coming out with their album Three Stripes next week, and hopefully we'll be interviewing them. Other than that, there's no release dates in sight, so 7th Streeter was supposed to be coming out, but that got pushed, and Mary J, same story.
We still haven't
I
heard
don't know
anything
what's coming
about
out
it.
next.
She's on tour. She actually just performed in New York yesterday. Kind of surprised you weren't there. I guess you were eating Burger King nuggets instead, but it's all good. Yep. But
right.
that seems to be it for this podcast. We apologize if you guys missed Ed. We'll be sure to bring him back sometime sooner than later. But until then, this is Tom and Kyle. We're signing out. Until next time, peace.